Well, good evening out there, everyone, in pure officiating land. This is Corey coming to you live from Denver, joined as always with my three compatriots, Brandon, Tuta, and Daniel. Before we get started tonight, we have some somber news to kind of pass along to you. One of our dearest friends, a colleague of ours in the CFO West, Scott Tiefer, a very long time, well respected umpire in both the Mount West and the Big 12 Conference. He had a battle with cancer that he lost this early yesterday morning. He was diagnosed early in 2020 and battled and battled and battled, and he got to a point, earlier this spring where he thought maybe he'd have a chance to work some football, but that cancer thing, it's a tough opponent, and so I know. Personally, I worked with Scott a few times. I shared a couple postseason bowls with Scott, and you talk about, when you think about an umpire, you think about someone who's going to have total control of the middle of the field. And, I think as referees, before the advent of the center judge, the umpire was really kind of your safety blanket, made you feel good as a referee. And Scott was always that guy. He was always in control of the middle of the field. He really kind of brought that sense of realism to the football field, and he kept things moving. And very straight laced. He would tell you how he felt. He would, tell you exactly what he thought on things. And Scott, Scotty's definitely going to be someone that we all miss. Just his personality alone. I mean, just a great, great man, a great, great human being. And that transcended onto the football field because he brought that same energy and that same zest that he had for life onto the football field. And, Scotty, and he's going to be missed. And his wife, Mary Jo, and his family, they're obviously going through some times right now. So I'd ask that y'all keep their family in your thoughts and prayers. And we're going to dedicate tonight's session to Scott. And, I know Daniel and Brandon and Tuta, you may have some stories or some comments you want to share. So I'll shut up and let you guys go from there.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for that, Corey. I can't think of a more appropriate introduction in tonight's session. And I would just reiterate what you said, thinking about Mary Jo, Scott's wife and his children, and all of his family, tonight. If you're inclined to pray, certainly remember them in your prayers. Man, Scott was a big dude, and I don't mean that physically, but he was a big personality. So I can just imagine the kind of hole he left with his family, certainly left a hole with his friends and the officiating community. I was fortunate to be on a crew with Scott in 2019, and he's just a friend. He is genuinely a friend. He was so good to me. Didn't really know each other super well before the start of the year. I think I was an alternate for a crew of his a long time ago, and maybe had met in passing at different, clinics or whatnot. But really got to know each other really well over the course of the 19 season, and was just a genuine friend. Man, Scott is a good dude. Was a really good dude. He was the kind of guy that, I think, Corey, you said it so well. Scott would tell you exactly what he thought and what he was feeling, and unapologetically. It didn't bother him. He felt like part of his responsibility was to be honest with you. But if you ever misunderstood that for hostility, you didn't get it, because Scott was a gruff guy, maybe on the surface, but he was such a caring dude. He really just cared about people and was a kind guy. And it was a really interesting kind of layers to peel back as you got to know him. I mean, I will be forever grateful for just the way that he treated me, the way that he looked out for me. Still as a relatively, young official. I think my fourth year in the league, and had a lot of knowledge and experience to share. So it's tough. It's really tough. A lot of affection for Scott.
Yeah, you had that. He lived in Las Vegas, but you would never know that he brought that Bronx mentality. Because he was from New York, and you always knew he's from the Bronx. And I think my favorite story is we got to work the Pinstripe Bowl one year, and you should have seen him. He was over the moon with being able to show off his home city and working in Yankee Stadium. You would have thought he was working the national championship, Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, all in one time. And just to see the joy on that man's face for the Pinstripe Bowl was worth the price of admission and then some. Such a good dude.
Yeah, the last time I talked to Scott was it was right when we kicked off 2020 season, and Daniel, I'm sorry, but I know he was gruff on the surface. He was pretty gruff all the way around, or whatever word you used. Every other F-bomb, the conversation was laced with every other word being an F-bomb because he was so upset that he wasn't on the field last year.
Oh,
and he said, he's going through chemo, whatever he was doing. I mean, I don't know the whole details of his treatment, but he said, I'm not going to repeat the words, but like I said, every other word just laced with Scott Teifer language.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, do you know anybody more passionate about what we do?
No.
There's not one person.
He loved being a football official.
There's not one person. And just ask him one question about managing a football game from the middle, and he would absolutely go off. That's and right. About 2 hours later, and probably about 6 beers later, after he got done sucking those things down, and in between, with dropping all the F-bombs that he did, you learn something. I swear to God, you learn something from every single conversation. So he is actually the essence of what we strive to be here, and it's a big loss.
Yep.
Yeah. You're right, man. We were really fortunate. Scott would come out this past season during the COVID year. New Mexico was playing home games at UNLV's old stadium, Sam Boyd in Las Vegas. And then, of course, UNLV had moved to the new Raiders stadium. And we, you go out to Las Vegas to work New Mexico and some other team that's traveled, and there's 0 fans in the stand, and you always feel fortunate to have a football game to work. But apart from that, there's not a whole lot of, I guess you don't feel super blessed to be there. I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's true. But golly, man, looking back, Scott came out to both of those games, and we got to fellowship with him in the locker room. Scott was so kind to me when my mom passed. Was always willing, gave me a call in the off season to see how things were going prior to the 2020 year and just offer some encouragement. He was a good dude, man. He was such a good dude. Such a good dude.
So we're going to take that passion that Brandon talked about, and we're going to bottle that up and put it into our coffers here at Pure Officiating. Hopefully, do him justice with the passion that we share for what we do, and hopefully we will come close to the type of passion that Scotty had for us. So,
ready to roll?
Let's roll. We are, we're just coming off our camp here at Black Hills, and I know we got some things to talk about there. And so for those that we got to meet there, thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast. Hopefully you had a good time as well. But is Tuta fun? Did he show up? Tuta, is he on here?
I've been here since kickoff, Corey. I'm always on time.
Well, you must have a very loose definition, but I guess I'll kick it over to Tuta and Brandon to see what we want to talk about tonight.
So, as Corey mentioned, we just finished at Black Hills. Really good time fellowshipping with officials from across the country, meeting new officials. I wish I had a chance to really be in all of the different breakouts, but somebody assigned me to sit in the referee breakout for whatever reason. So I met 8 really nice referees. I think I had met one of the referees before, but good time fellowshipping. So yeah, let's just get into the plays. And I think the first play we're looking at is offensive holding type. No, we're looking at illegal blindside block action. Brandon, is that what we're doing first?
That's what we're doing first. Let's look at it. All right. So you got the play. I'll start the poll.
Yep. The play is being loaded. So we're asking a very simple question as usual. So there's 2 blocks. Block A is going to be at the, let's see if this is going to loop back again. It's going to be the number 1 wide receiver at the bottom at the 37-yard line. And block B is going to be at the 25-yard line, and you'll be able to see it on the all 30 angle when it loops back around. And the question we're asking is, which of these blocks were blindside blocks? So let it loop back around.
What's the yard line for block A again?
37-yard line. Look at the number one receiver at the
37-yard line.
bottom.
Number one receiver at the bottom, 37-yard line going in.
25-yard line is block B at the end of the play. So which of those blocks were blindside blocks? Was it block A? You can see it again right there. Block B is actually on this screen, is going to, on the tight angle, is going to go off the screen. So is it block A, block B, both of the blocks, or neither of the blocks?
This was our war session. I think this is probably the newest innovation in football camps, and maybe not for officiating. This thing was incredible.
It was fun.
Explain what we did. I mean, it was a blast. Explain how it all went down.
So at the top of the screen on the visitor side is Wyoming. At the bottom of the screen on the home side is South Dakota. Those are 14 high school teams, and each team obviously represented the state, and they all were participating on the same team. We started at the 50-yard line with the ball. One team would be on offense. Wyoming. Did Wyoming win the toss? I can't remember who won the toss. Whatever. If Wyoming won the toss, they would go on offense first. Wherever the ball lied, that's where South Dakota would pick up and play offense. If South Dakota would play one play, wherever the ball lied, that's where Wyoming will come on. So each team would alternate turns on the field. So you can see there's 14 teams sitting out there, and each team would take a turn on offense and defense. It was really fun. Really, really, really fun. Okay, I think
You think we're good?
I think we are good, and I love the results because that's exactly what I was hoping that we would have. 75% of us said only B was a blindside block. 13% of us said both blocks were blindside blocks, and then 10% of us said neither block was a blindside block. That's kind of concerning, but also understandable. So there's a word that we intentionally left out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important that we understand the distinction between a foul and an action that's defined by the rule book. The rule book defines a blindside block as a block that is delivered from outside of the opponent's field of vision. All blindside blocks are not illegal. So the only question we were asking you is, which of these blocks were delivered from outside of the opponent's field of vision? And the reason we are asking you that question is because that is how we have to start our determination process to figure out if we see a foul or not. If the block is not delivered from outside of the opponent's field of vision, then we don't even have to go into the next aspect of evaluating the action to determine if we have a foul for illegal blindside block. We did not ask, was this a foul for illegal blindside block? So maybe we need to talk about that a little bit. Maybe I talked enough about it. Do we have anything else we need to say about that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I think you're okay. I think this is probably a case of just reading between the lines and stuff.
Or maybe not reading between the lines. But, it's very important to understand that concept because we're going to see collisions all over the field. And I'm telling you what, guys, at this camp, we saw collisions all over the field.
Yes, we did.
I mean, this was crazy. And this play alone, we have like 3 significant collisions. And so the whole point of the camp, right? I think the theme of the camp, it's been fun to work 2 camps now and have themes pop out. The theme of this camp was, and we talk process. People give us a hard time, but we like it. But seriously, like exercising our process to become more consistent in our decision making.
Yes.
And this play was a perfect example. So where do you want to go? Where do you want to go next into this?
Let's leave from is the block delivered from is the block a blindside block, and let's move to the next step because we have to determine if either one of these two actions are fouls. So Daniel, I know you have help us out here. What do we need to do to determine if either one of these actions are fouls? Maybe I should go to a screen. Should I go to screen share, or do we want to use this loop?
I don't care. Whatever you think is best.
Why don't you share?
The loop
oh, okay. Whatever it works. But
okay, there you go. Yeah, no, do the loop. Do the loop. That's good. Because we'll probably need to end up in the loop at the screen share anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go there now. Good call.
Okay. All right. I shouldn't have asked that question because now I'm on the spot and I had to find it.
Well, in the back of my head, I was thinking, is it Tuta doing the screen share?
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Easy, guys. I don't need to channel my inner Scott Teifer and use a word that we don't need to be.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Scott's waiting, by the way. This is what Scott would do at camps, our clinics that I was with him at. I unfortunately never got to work a game with him, which is really disappointing. But anyways, he like if something like this were happening, he would absolutely go up to Tuta and curse his ass out. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I just fell into the trap. He wouldn't hold anything back. I mean, Tuta, what the bleep is wrong with you? I mean, you got to get this up. Come on, we're waiting. Let's go. Whatever New York accent I can't pull off.
All right, here we go.
There it is. Let's go.
So Daniel, we've established that, and we're looking at the number one receiver at the bottom of the screen. And what we're talking about is the block delivered from outside of the player's field of vision, meaning is this a blindside block? And I think it's pretty obvious. I won't say pretty obvious because we had some discussion on that this block, I think the four of us agree that this is a blindside block.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's, like you said, that's our first consideration is it blindside in nature? So pretty comfortable with that consideration. I don't know if this block elicits the conversation that I'm about to have, but it's worth mentioning because he does approach him a little bit. Well, how about this, Tuta? He approaches him from, maybe 11 o'clock, right? So within the 10 to 2 range. So how can it be blindside in nature if we say that it's within the 10 to 2 range? I'll ask that question.
Yeah. So does anybody else want to take that, or should I take that one?
What we talked about, at the camp was relative to area of focus and not getting so much caught up on this from the front nonsense that we unfortunately tried to draw a parallel to. We know the block below the waist rule references 10 to 2 and from the front and all that good stuff. But I think where we're going with blindside block, which I'm happy to hear, and it was actually David who articulated this very well, is more on evaluating the area of concentration of the player being blocked. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that seemed to be game changing for a lot of people. I felt in the room that clicked better,
Right. Yeah. And the rule does say field of vision, and it also says, does the player have a reasonable opportunity to protect themselves? So that kind of leads us towards the away from just only considering 10 to 2.
Yeah. And I think that's where I agree, Brandon. I think that was well put. The area of concentration and then what that connects to, if this is all kind of a chain of events that we're evaluating to come to a conclusion, where the area of concentration leads to is that next part you mentioned, Tuta, the opportunity to defend himself. And so we're going to have a sense of where the area of concentration is if we're evaluating this entire action. And what's going to really seal it for us is if we're going to make a decision about whether or not he had the opportunity to defend himself. And that's really going to seal it for us. So those two things kind of connect together to help inform whether or not it's blindside in nature. And I agree. I think listen, even if he's coming from 11, this whatever he is, I would imagine he's a safety, kind of a rover position. He's reading the back. So
Right.
he has no pass responsibility here, or he just runs so fast that his eyes are in the backfield, and he has no feel or conception about A89's block. So he's not concentrating on him, and because of that, he really doesn't have an opportunity to defend himself.
So throw the flag, Daniel.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Oh.
Slow down, Skippy.
Oh, okay.
So we're halfway there, right? The first consideration is this blindside in nature? And then the next thing we really need to consider is it forcible? Does he hit him hard enough for it to rise to the level of an illegal blindside block? And I think that this is where we have the most challenge and the most subjectivity comes into this rule. And the reason we continue to watch these, other than the fact that we continue to disagree with them, maybe that's the same thing, is that because we've got a long way to go corporately to get on the same page. And by same page, I mean that 98, 99 percentile to where we're all really comfortable making these decisions.
Right.
So what do we think here? Is this forcible enough? I mean, look, there's some really low-hanging fruit for us to hang on to when we're talking about the forcibility of the block. What is that? Does the defender go to the ground? Is that an absolute? Can we just hang our hats on that alone?
No.
No, I mean, no. It could be part way of the evidence needed to make the case, but I don't believe that would be enough to convict this man on the scene here.
Wait, or absolve him.
Correct. Either
In this
way,
case would be to absolve him.
which makes it not a very good indicator, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, okay. So I don't know. I think it's a piece of the puzzle, Brandon. I certainly not in isolation is it enough, but it's
Right.
a helpful piece of information when we're evaluating, is the block forcible enough to rise to the level of a foul.
But the danger
Okay.
there, Daniel, is that we could say, "Oh, he didn't go to the ground." That's not forcible, and I think that's a
Absolutely.
very dangerous thing for us to do.
It is.
If we only use that indicator.
Agreed. It's one of those things that in isolation, it simply doesn't qualify something as a foul or not a foul. It's just one of those pieces of information we're going to use to make a determination.
Right. So on this one, I do not see this contact, and I know we have a little bit of a different way of evaluating, Daniel. Because I throw a different element in there. I think you say if it's forceful, then attacking is inherent. I like to separate force and attack and look at both of them individually, which may or may not make sense to other people.
Sure. And I think that's a great point too, Todd, for two reasons. First of all, well, maybe it's only one reason, but I think we just need to be willing and have the flexibility in a call like this to kind of evaluate it in a way that makes sense with us to a degree, right? Like we can't use this idea of independence to go rogue and against national philosophies, and certainly not against the rule book and even our own, individual conferences or leagues that we work in. But I think there is value in just finding maybe tent posts that you can tie your decision-making process to. So without, because I think maybe you and I have beat this up enough together individually, and maybe even enough within the group. But here, I would ask you this, because I am interested, and you saw me almost ask you on Saturday morning.
I know you were itching. I saw you.
In your opinion, is this an attacking block? I mean, does he attack this defender?
It is
Really?
not. I
So
do not
why does
see
he
this.
not? Why is this not attacking? What a part of this is not attacking in your mind?
And you're setting me up because now I'm gonna go straight to the force element. I don't see him forcefully throwing his body part into the defender.
Okay, very good.
I knew I shouldn't have fell for it. I fell for it anyway.
Because my argument would be this is absolutely attacking. He goes and gets after this guy and wants to block him, and he attacks him. He just doesn't do a great job of it, and it's not forcible. So again, it's almost a 6 one way, half a dozen the other, but that's okay. Right. I think it's interesting the way that you and I kind of conceptualize these blocks. So we're very much in agreement that yes, blindsided nature, A, blindsided nature, B does not rise to the level of a foul because it's not, in your mind, attacking and forcible, and in my mind, it's not forcible in nature.
Correct.
Very good.
Corey, anything?
I agree with the non-forcible aspect of it. The attacking, I think, is such a subjective term because I think we sometimes associate the attacking directly with the forcefulness of the block. And by attacking, I think of a player is seeking another player out. To not be attacking, you're just kind of standing there, kind of like absorbing the contact, if you will, kind of like a block charge type of situation. So yes, I would side with Brother Daniel here that 89 is attacking by seeking out this defender. I don't think we should blur the line to think that attacking is just how he delivers the hit. It can be part of that. I agree, but I don't think that's the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to attacking.
Okay.
So we got me on one side of the aisle and Dave and Tuta on the other side, and then Corey can see both sides. So there you go.
All right. So I think we beat that particular block up. Let's look at block number B. Number B. That's probably
number
not right.
B.
But whatever. We'll go with it.
Engineer for you. Letters don't exist.
So we're looking at the 25-yard line, and we see it frozen right now. The player going into the other player. Now, the next question we need to ask here is, so Daniel, the question is this block forcible? Because we've said it's from the blind side. It is a blind side block, which coincidentally, as Brandon so aptly pointed out, this block is also from the front.
Yeah, I love this point because we're having a chat convo. See, I'm trying to be hip. Chat is that what they say? Anyways, this block we had a lot of pushback on the last block that we just looked at. Well, how can it be blindside block? No, at camp, not here. At camp.
Okay.
How can it be a blindside block? It's from the front. And said, okay, well, that's not. And we've been going through this in the chat. That's really not. And we already talked about that here. And just coincidentally, and we didn't even know this, but when we started analyzing this block's absolutely from the front.
It's right.
The force of this block goes right into the blockee's chest.
Yeah.
And so that was just very, I guess, fortunate for those of us that don't believe all blindside blocks must be from the side. So that was the point I wanted to make. Go ahead.
Right. Okay, so Daniel, what do you see on this particular block letter B?
Well, listen, I don't want to get overly technical and confuse anyone, but this dude gets smoked. P-laid.
Uh-oh.
P-laid, yeah.
Yeah, we got some Louisiana language coming back. P-laid.
Yeah, some Cajun. Yeah, and listen, before we continue to dive into the technical, aspects of getting P-laid, that last block was dang close. I mean, I think what the player does, if we juxtapose these two blocks on block A, as opposed to block B, is he kind of raises up and he bangs him with his chest. It's not a hands block, but he doesn't really lower that shoulder and deliver the boom. Like we see this guy lower the shoulder. I don't think we're going to see it on the tight. Are you showing us A?
Oh,
yeah, right there. Yeah. It's kind of gets in front of him and uses his body. He explodes into him to the best of his ability, but he doesn't really use his shoulder, which is often what we see with these blindside blocks. Again, in isolation, it means nothing, but just a piece of the puzzle as we make our decision. Whereas when we get to the wide angle, we're going to see A7. I don't know if you can tell from there, but it is A7. Really duck down and launch into him with that shoulder to really deliver a pretty intense hit, especially for South Dakota. So I think
in the world was that shot all about?
Was that a blind side?
No, but I see that's in nature. I know that.
So I think absolutely this block, we've established why it's blindside in nature, and I think, man, I'd be really hard pressed to find a viable argument that suggests this isn't forcible enough to rise to the level of a foul.
Right. Yeah, I just think we see really good distinction here, and I can understand why we want to go up and down about the attacking and all that stuff. But look, you can attack a player legally. We've talked about this a million times already. You can attack a player legally, and you can attack a player from the blind side, but it may just not rise to the level. The force or the block in nature or the attack in nature may not rise to the level of what needs to be considered an illegal blindside block. Now, I know all of us want to know exactly what that means, but the fact of the matter is it's just impossible to put every player action into a book or onto, onto a PowerPoint show or whatever you want to say to codify exactly what every single action, how it needs to be called. And that's why we do this, and that's why we go to camps, and that's why we pull plays, and that's why we look at plays over and over again and discuss all these concepts because we're developing thresholds. So I just think these are two great blocks on the same exact play to put side by side.
That's correct.
Absolutely. Isn't that cool how it worked out?
But we're not done yet.
Oh, there's more?
Yeah,
Surely
I think there is more because as we're evaluating this block at the 25-yard line, and if you just told me that this is a block that is blindside in nature, does that not mean that the player receiving the block is defenseless?
In fact, it does.
Okay. So if this player is defenseless, don't we have some targeting considerations to evaluate as well?
In fact, we do.
Okay. So we could potentially have a foul for targeting as well. So since he's defenseless, Corey, what does that mean? What does that mean? We said he's defenseless. What does that mean in our targeting evaluation process?
That means from our process standpoint, we're not only concerned with action by the blocker's helmet, we're also considering where does the contact take place, because with the defenseless player, we then cannot attack forcibly the head or neck region of our opponent.
So we said it's blindside. Do we see a targeting indicator?
Oh, I believe we do. Yes,
I do too. So this is pretty easy, right? So then the next thing we just need to see: do we see forcible contact to the head or neck area, or do we see forcible contact with the crown of the helmet? And I think it's really close. And I do not believe, the tight angle does not capture it, and the end zone also does not capture it. Unfortunately, this is the only look that we have.
So I mean,
what are we seeing here?
We would just have to make a decision, and the wide angle. I think where we landed on this is we can't really tell from this video.
Right.
For example, I mean, if this was the only video available to a replay official in a replay game, then actually a call of targeting would have to be overturned because you can't prove it.
And there's no more stands, right, Brandon?
Right, and that doesn't mean it's not. But I mean, I guess I think you and I are actually on the pylon there on the right side, right upper corner of the screen, and we saw this clearly for some reason, but it didn't look like he got him in the head. It looked like it was all real force to the chest, maybe some incidental helmet contact, but nothing that rose to the level of targeting.
Right. Yeah. Well, I saw it clearly, Brandon, because I know how to work the position from that angle. You saw it clearly because you got lucky, and I tapped you on the shoulder and asked you, "Did you see that?" And then you lied and say, "Oh yeah, I saw it too."
No, you started yelling on the field because you don't have any composure. So there is that.
Yeah.
Which you kind of need to work football. I don't know if you know that or not.
Well, I was clear down in the opposite end zone on this play, and I went running to the opposite end. So if Kuta doesn't have composure, I definitely didn't either.
So.
You can't overturn this for targeting. There's a chat question. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'll double down on what I already said. If this is your angle, I'm sorry. If this is your angle, you can't prove this is targeting. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know what the standards are for games that worked without instant replay, but they maybe have the thing at halftime or the post game review. But if this is your angle,
this is all you have. Yeah,
you can't prove it's targeting. Now, look, I don't know what the standard is. So, is the standard if you call targeting, then perhaps I don't know. I'm just saying in games with instant replay, this player would not be disqualified if this was the only video, because we just can't tell.
Right.
Yeah, I'll go out on a limb a little bit here, and we're all looking at the same play. But to me, clear and obvious is probably too far, but to me, I feel very confidently like this contact is even a little bit below the shoulder, and any head contact we would get here is a little bit incidental. I feel
that's
like
correct.
He really comes up and lowers before he launches and gets into like just below that shoulder, almost armpit area as I look at it. So
I fully agree with that, Dan. I fully agree with that. We're not done with this play. Hold on. Do I need to stay in screen share or what?
Yeah, why don't you stay on screen share and go back and forth on the end zone? I'll publish the poll. Here it is.
Too late.
That's all right. Go back. We'll evaluate the action with the defender lined up over the ball. So we're talking about right at the snap. And then what are your options? You're pulling the play back up. Double team block, no foul for offensive holding. There was some material restriction, but the ball was already gone, so there's no foul for offensive holding. The action does meet the criteria for an offensive holding foul. And I think you know where we're going with this in terms of the process. Tight angle is pretty good. End zone angle is really good. And so, let's roll it.
All right, so we're looking at the nose guard, basically. Oh, shoot. Volume.
Oh, shoot. Wow.
Good restraint there, Tuta. That's very impressive for you.
This man turned over a new leaf.
I'm a professional person.
Since we left South Dakota, this man has turned over a new leaf.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the block against the nose guard. And then we're going to look at the end zone angle as well. I'm a professional looper.
Do you know what that means? That means you're a professional caddy in golf.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh,
I didn't know that. I'll do that. I will do that.
he could never be my caddy. I need way more help than he could offer.
Right.
Well, I can't see the poll when I'm sharing, so somebody else is going to have to.
Yeah, you're good. We're still bouncing around all over the place.
Still moving a little bit. Looks like maybe we're getting there. Oh, no. Oh,
These are the ones we want.
this is great.
Yeah, this is the result we always strive for.
We're all over the place.
Absolutely, we're a third, third.
Almost thirds.
That's perfect.
I'm just gonna end the poll. I mean, go after it. Let's go.
This is what we should start doing. Just end the poll when it suits us. Anyways, go ahead.
So what? I don't see the poll results. So
All right.
somebody.
So here's what we got, Tuta. Option A is this was a double team block for no foul. So we got 36%.
Oh, great.
There. The second option, option B, is that there was some material restriction, but the ball was already gone. So we're thinking about, proximity of the block to the ball carrier. So no foul for OH. That's 26%. Last option, option C, says this action met the criteria for a foul of OH, and we've got 36% there. Excuse me, also.
Okay, so 63% of us said this is not a foul for offensive holding, correct?
72%. Oh, yeah, very good. You're right.
Okay, all right, Daniel.
Sorry.
I know you were a special ed teacher. I didn't know you were in special ed as well.
Not appropriate.
I'm sorry.
That is not appropriate at all.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it offends you that you don't know how to do simple math. Okay, here we go.
That's not the offensive part. No foul because it's a double team block. What do you think? I mean,
well, we need to look
guys.
This is really great video that we had, and there's a reason. I mean, when you're working the umpire position, you have to see detail. Really, on any position you work, you have to see detail. Take a look right here. What do we see immediately?
We see a center engage a nose guard.
What is the center's right hand and arm doing?
On
And
the
left hand.
Behind the left shoulder of the defender.
Yeah.
Immediate illegal blocking technique. You can't tell me
right.
at all this is a legal blocking technique.
So
Correct.
our antenna.
What about it is illegal?
Yeah, right. So the legal blocking technique is hands inside the frame, not grabbing.
Okay, gotcha.
I would venture to guess that anybody could look at this and say, you know what? The center's hands are outside the frame since they're literally over, draped over both shoulders.
Right. So that immediately should raise our antenna. And as we move forward, we can see now the player is already on his way to the ground. Would any of us disagree that this is restriction?
Nope.
Not for me.
Okay, the player in the red jersey is already on his way to the ground. The kid at left guard is just now starting to touch him. So the point of this is we don't want to be lazy and just say, oh, well, it was a double team block. We have to really evaluate this action and realize the restriction already occurred. The material restriction already occurred. He's already on his way to the ground because he's getting yanked down. You can see the right hand over the top. The left hand is on the side of the jersey here also. This is illegal blocking technique with material restriction prior to any contact by the left guard. So we have to be able to see that.
It's restriction. It's definitely restriction prior to the contact with the left guard. Now we go to the material aspect, right?
Oh, okay. I'll say material restriction in a vacuum. I guess that's what I was saying.
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Restriction that would rise to the level of holding in a vacuum, but we got to process the impact to the play. Yes.
Correct. So does anybody in the chat have questions about still maybe saying that this is a double team block? And therefore we would not determine that this is be material restriction.
No, not as of now.
Okay. So we're saying, just to clarify, I think you guys did a great job, but just whether or not we want to get into the semantics of whether or not this constitutes a double team, this level of support from the left guard here is not sufficient enough to absolve the center of any fouling or offensive holding action, right? Is that okay to say that?
That's a very nice way to say that.
Okay, very good. So that's option A. Now let's talk about option B.
But this isn't even a double team. Can we just get away from that? Because it's clear and obvious that, yes, he adds a little bit of momentum to him. But, what's he doing? The damage is already done. A double team is when we're actually blocking and moving somebody with two people. This is just putting a hand on. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this dude is almost setting up. Daniel, I know you're an old wrestling fan, and David probably used to pile drive you over and over at home. This dude is actually setting up for the pile driver, it looks like.
It's all close. That's right. Or the tombstone, either one.
DDT as well. He can DDT him from this position as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Brandon, but I think when we start talking about what isn't a double team, maybe there's some, differing opinions and subjectivity.
Well, and that's not the purpose. That's not the essence of what we need to get into.
Sure. And I agree with you. This isn't a double team. He's blocking, and this guy is just like, I got to do something to justify my jersey and the locker room. And the cheerleader put something on my locker on Thursday, so we got to do something. But what we need to evaluate is, as officials, is, well, I'm okay. Let's just leave it there. I think we've covered this really well. I agree. This isn't really a double team block, so no foul. So we can still have a foul for OH. But let's talk about this next element, Brandon. Proximity of the ball carrier. I mean, look, the left guard in the center, and we're sweeping to the right side of the offense. Surely we have enough distance here to help us not throw flags. Because listen, we don't want to throw flags. We don't want to.
We don't.
And we find a reason to not.
We talked a lot about our psychological bias or something towards, trying to not throw flags, not interrupt the game. We want the game to flow. We want to keep the game going. That's a better experience for all. But our job is to be out there and detect illegal techniques. Look, we got to see legal techniques, got to see illegal techniques, but obviously we uphold the rules of the game. So we've got to evaluate as such and become consistent. We know that this happens right at the snap. And we also sense flow, like from the umpire perspective, we also sense flow to our left. And we can sense the flow while we also, look at this restriction. How quick this happens with this pitch, and we don't have the luxury to do this on the field, you can stop. This restriction is almost over before the running back even gets the ball. Literally almost over. I mean, you could actually look at this. It's starting now. His hands are already illegal. Not that it's a foul yet. Keep going.
Well, he's now being pulled to the ground.
Yeah, there's no defender in the world that's going to actually, play football that way if he's not being illegally blocked. The ball's still in the air. And so I don't buy the fact that, yes, this was a sweep and it's going to go all the way out there. You know what? Let's not complicate these things. This is a very simple process. Is the restriction holding in a vacuum? Yes. Okay, now, is there sufficient delay from this restriction until the ball becomes dead? Yes. Is the proximity of this restriction, close enough given how big this restriction is, like a takedown? Is the proximity of the restriction, close enough at the time to have an impact on the play? Yes. Then that's our decision-making process to help us arrive at a final conclusion for offensive holding.
But Brandon, you gave us a really good technique as well over the weekend about rewinding it back. And maybe you can talk about that, because a lot of times, I know for me personally, I would be evaluating this action, and by the time the dude is on the ground, this is when I would say, golly, that was some really bad restriction. Now I'll look up and I see the ball. Well, golly, the dude is way over there. The running back is way over there with the ball. There's no way he could have affected the play. So then I would just say, well, that's not a foul. So what do you talk about with that? Yeah,
and so I mean, we are gonna sense that the ball is out wide after our brain gets done processing this holding action. And so what we're not, and I don't want to just throw the flag real fast. So we're not saying to just whiz a flag in there the minute we see this. That's not what we're saying at all. We want to basically process all of this, all these factors we just discussed. Now, we know that our brain's going to stick on and our vision's going to stick onto this restriction longer, okay? And a lot of other action on the play is going to happen in the meantime. So we've got to rewind the status of the ball. We've got to rewind the status of that ball back to approximately where it was when we feel the restriction happened. And so if we notice the ball is in the middle of the field here or whatever we get to it, maybe at the hash, then we've got to be able to start, based on practice like this, discussions that we had and video like this, we've got to be able to start to press the rewind button and put the running back, towards the middle of the field to create that proximity. And we do that by understanding just how the play transpired. It's not that we're looking at the running back. It's not that we're looking at the ball, but we all know how football works. We all know what a sweep looks like. And so if we can start to do that, press the rewind button, then we're going to put the ball back where it needs to be based on when we need to evaluate all this proximity, timing, and again, to make a quality decision here.
Yep.
Mechanically, I think I like the idea that perhaps the center judge could transition down, but it's really quick. It's really quick. If I'm an umpire, I got to own this all the way. I don't want to say who can help me with this. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, come on. This is the nose guard on the center. 3 down front.
That's right.
So we know where we're starting. I mean, we know where we're starting. We're man-to-man on the defensive matchups. Not that we're going to be there for long, but here we are because we noticed an illegal blocking technique right off the bat. So umpires just need to really own this and not even care if anybody else helps them on this. You got this all the way.
Yeah, I mean, by the time if the center blocks gives this block due diligence on his tackle, he may just see a player on the ground. So I agree. Brandon, let me ask you this. Are you comfortable with the idea that, okay, maybe as a center judge, I think the rewind deal is really a great concept for us to study. But, what about the idea that if as a center judge, or I'm sorry, rather as an umpire, I see this, the ball is going way over here, man, the proximity aspect really isn't there. Are you okay with us saying that, guys, from a element of time perspective, unless that ball carrier is getting tackled really, really close, really, really close, I'm not going to say simultaneous, but almost simultaneous to the point that we see material restriction in the block itself, in the blocking action, that if there's time lapse there, we've got to consider the fact that the way that players pursue and the way a defense's players' pursuit could impact a running back's route, which could impact the way another defender tackles him. So just to say that, like, if we have a time element in between the restrictive block and the player being tackled, that most of the time we're going to be okay. If the level of restriction is appropriate, having a flag for OH, is that too far to say?
No, I don't think it is, but I don't buy the proximity thing not being a factor here, because he jerks him down to the ground immediately at the snap with the ball still in the air.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't buy it, Daniel. I'm sorry. I mean, and I know that what we're saying, we're playing the result of, this is a pitch out wide. I mean, it's clearly illegal right at the snap.
Yeah.
It clearly, to me, has an impact on the play.
Right now. Yeah.
Yes. The ball is in the air, and he jerks the guy down. And, I mean, does that alter how these pulling linemen end up blocking? Does that alter who gets picked up at the second level? I don't know. I have no idea.
Potentially, it does.
Exactly. So the philosophy has always been, we call it if it has an impact or could have an impact on the play. I don't know what that means, but I know that based on the filters we've discussed, it checks all those boxes.
I think it means, from our perspective, we're most comfortable with option C here. This action met the criteria for an offensive holding foul.
Oh, yeah.
That's correct.
So,
all right.
One play.
Do we want to get into
to
number 7, his first block, or no? Oh, we want to leave that alone.
Golly,
the tight end?
Yeah.
I think again, you asked that question in our closing section. I think it's worth do we have the end zone? We already watched it. I think it's worth looking at. I think it's worth looking at because this is kind of unique. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I think, he's a tight end reaching to the second level. We don't have to make this kind of decision very often. So this is the back judge's initial key as the ball is snapped. And I will tell you, as back judge, this isn't something that I have to think about a whole lot. Even if we just consider the blindside aspect, which in my opinion, this is not a blindside block, it's not a blindside block, but even making that decision isn't something we have to think about here. But I think that's a consideration. I think you have to run this through the filter and decide, is this blindside in nature first or is it not? And then that will kind of guide your next steps. But I think, golly, you guys check me if you think I'm way out here in left field, but I think that there is an element of this blocker that goes high to the defender. I mean, that's very clear, right? He goes high. And so I think we have to make a decision about whether or not, first of all, so he's not defenseless if we say he's not a blindside, if he's not receiving a blindside block. So that's where I am. And again, this is just kind of subjective, but I'll just take you through my thought process.
Agree.
He's not defenseless, right? This is not receiving a blindside block. So the next thing I need to think about is, do we have an indicator? Well, I've got hands coming up high to the head and neck area of the defender. I wouldn't call this a launch, but it's pretty close to a thrust. I'm comfortable saying that these hands to the head and neck area could be the equivalent of a strike if I have a defenseless player. We already decided that it doesn't meet that standard. So really, when I'm talking about an indicator on a non-defenseless player, what we're thinking about is the crown of the helmet. And so we got to see him really duck the helmet, duck the chin, lower the helmet in an attacking manner and create forcible contact that rises to the level of a foul. I don't see that. I think it's very, very close. I think we're a little bit shy of ducking to really use the crown of the helmet as a weapon to attack and create forcible contact. But I think we're very close to the degree that we need to run that again through our filter. And then the next thing we have to think about that we see very rarely is the way this blocker uses his hands to the head or neck area of the defender. I mean, golly, right there, that's a great still frame. You see a defender with his head cocked back like that, you've got to be thinking about something. And so as back judges, leave it right here, Tuta. we talk a lot about when we read run play, what we want to do is get in front of the ball carrier working from an inside out orientation. So a little bit similar to our conversation with the umpires' visual mechanics, we may be in the habit of saying, you know what, this block is not relevant to the ball carrier. And well, first of all, that's not true. But even if it's not, this is our initial key, and we have to be responsible for this block. And so we can't just leave this defender on an island to receive a UNR or a target, even if we feel like maybe, the block isn't impactful to the point of attack. Does that make sense? That distinction there. So we got to continue to officiate all the way through this action. And so the next thing I'm thinking about, guys, is, well, geez, I mean, is this a strike to the neck? Is this hands to the face? I mean, this seems like something that really needs to get my antenna up as I'm officiating this block.
Absolutely. I mean, the rules protect a player from being blocked with, hands to the face actions. And we talked about creating micro categories of all foul types. And so our hands to the face categories, and they're in the rule, but I mean, it's prolonged. It's a pronounced shot to the head. And then we had a third one. Oh, grasp and control, which obviously this isn't. This is more in the pronounced shot, or pronounced, what did you call it, Daniel? A pronounced strike, really, to the head. And I mean,
right.
Gosh, do you think this puts the defense at a disadvantage to go pursue this play? Absolutely. His head is 90 degrees to his spine as a result of this contact. And I think maybe as a result of his head being 90 degrees in relationship to his spine, that there's probably a safety consideration here for us to consider as well. Yeah. So we like this for not targeting, because not a defenseless player, but we certainly like this for, I mean, you want to call it illegal hands to the face, or you just want to call it a blow to the head, whatever you want to call it. We do like this. Now, mechanically, Daniel, I know the challenge here is to not swing out so wide, because we do talk about getting more forward of the point of attack from back judge position with your tight end coming down like this and really, I mean, attacking. We use that word in many different ways, but he's really kind of attacking the middle of the field here. Are you hoping to stay inside on and watch, clear him of a foul with this type of action?
Yeah, without question. So we know that if the tight end gives us a pass pro look, if he post steps, then immediately we're going to transition to somewhere else. I think we've got twins. I think this is a 2x2. We'd go to the top of the screen. I don't think we're in trips. But when the tight end fires out, we have to stay with him, because one of two things: either he's going out in pass route and he's our responsibility, or he's doing exactly this. He's going to the second level and blocking a linebacker or a safety, and we have to be responsible for that guy. So love what you said. We want to get out in front of the ball carrier working inside out, but we can't do that at the risk of or at the expense of our initial key, who we alone are responsible for. Because if we swing out here, nobody else is officiating that action. So we need to stay on him throughout this.
All right.
Good play.
Golly, was that really just one play?
One play.
One play, 7 concepts at least. So I mean, you could have had 7 plays, but that would just be a waste of changeover time. Just use one play to discuss 7 concepts.
Yeah.
I like it when just everything happens in one play. It makes it easy. I mean, not for the guys on the field, but for us.
Real quick, little chat stuff, and I was going to type it, but I'll just say it because it's easier, I guess. The questions are flying around. They're really good thoughts. I mean, we have to we're posing the question. Ask yourself this: could the nose guard? We'll go back on the offensive holding topic. Could the nose guard have made a play? And if I ask myself that, is that a filter to use, on whether or not to make this call for offensive holding? Okay, and I'm just going to – and this is our opinion only. I mean, this is our opinion. So, look, take this play and put it up against whoever else you want opinions from. But you're here, so you're going to get ours, I guess. This foul happens immediately at the snap, okay? And it's not as if the ball becomes dead immediately after the snap. The ball stays live forever and ever after this play. So here's the thing: this nose guard was put at a disadvantage illegally immediately at the snap, and there was a significant delay until this ball became dead. Do I think the nose guard would have made the tackle? No. Does that actually enter my thought? No. I'm just telling you right now, to me, that is not our job. It is not my job to judge the talent, the what do I want to say? The abilities, the capabilities of these players. That's not my job. I mean, if they don't want to be called for holding, probably the best thing to do is to block legally and not wrap your arms, lobster block around the back of this guy's shoulders and torque him to the ground while the ball's still in the air, And so could the nose guard have made the play? I don't know. But look, we talked about maybe he could go occupy a pulling guard. Maybe he could go occupy a second-level block. And maybe that would, in fact, enable another player to make a better play. I have no idea. It's not worth it for us to get into that. Let's just make this – let's just simplify this thing, use our filters, and use a reliable process to make calls if in fact they pass the filters. So that's where I'm at on that. That's my opinion.
I don't know. I haven't gone back to the chat yet. Just listening to you, but I would just challenge first of all the idea that the nose guard didn't have the potential to make this play. And I think that's your point, is that we're not in the business of judging the technical expertise or the athleticism of the players that we're officiating. I think if a nose guard bangs the right shoulder of the center with his left hand and swims him and he whiffs on that block, to suggest that isn't impactful on the rest of this play, to me would be, I don't know, a little obtuse. I think
because players, Daniel, that's a great – players do not get in the analytics world of this game, which is huge now, it's not that you need to make a tackle to score perfectly on a play from your position.
No, that's exactly right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, you're right. He swims through and he causes some chaos back there and eliminates a cutback lane. He impacted that play.
Yeah, without question. And the point is the foul, the restrictive block has prevented him from doing any of those things. And
illegally.
And so maybe if this is a really quick tuck, a really quick that's not a bad word, a really quick grab and pull, maybe then that's where that kind of thinking comes into play. But that's where this is like a holistic consideration. And this kind of just absolutely has prevented him from having any kind of participation in the play. So I'm just uncomfortable suggesting, oh, well, he couldn't have made that play, so that's not an OH. I think that's a pretty big stretch for me personally.
We can't. I like what y'all are saying. We can't do that. And I guess just to give an example, let's say Brandon Cruz is guarding Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford throws a jump ball. There's 0% chance Brandon Cruz is going to make a play. But if Calvin Johnson pushes Brandon Cruz to the ground, it's still OPI. It doesn't matter.
Then we don't even know. We don't even get to see Brandon Cruz's
get embarrassed. Brandon Cruz would literally get embarrassed. But if Calvin Johnson pushes him to the ground, it's still a foul.
So on my last vertical jump test, they slid 3 credit cards underneath my feet instead of just 2.
Wow, you've improved.
50%.
Box jumps are helping you. I love it, Brandon.
I'm not sure why you needed to go there. Can we move on? Can we move on to the next play?
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to – I was just making sure everybody got the visual and understood why we can't use – could the player have made a play on it?
Segue. We're going to go into OPI. It's unbelievable. I see what you did there.
I was just making sure everybody got the visual and understood why we can't use could the player have made a play on it.
Segue. We're going to go into OPI. It's unbelievable. I see what you did there.
And then, golly, just to double down on that, as the play develops across the field, 11 defenders pursuing, that's where the element of time comes into play. All right.
I'm sorry.
Hang on. Bear with us. This is the downside of having all this audio.
Hold on. What's the ruling on the field? The ruling on the field is a touchdown. Okay. Pass interference on the –
Oh, my gosh.
Let's start over. The audio is great. We just got to make sure we don't play it. Okay, Daniel, you were making a point. We'll play it back.
Well, I was just, just kind of doubling down. As plays develop, a player way over here on the other side, you don't know his speed, his athleticism. You don't know where the running back's going. So as that time element gets larger, the proximity becomes less and less of a consideration. So just guard yourself against that thinking, oh, could he have made the play? Because you will talk yourself out of some very legitimate fouls.
That's right.
All right, enough of that. Sorry.
Tuta, do you want the audio on this, or do you want to mute it?
No, I was trying. I mistakenly turned it on and interrupted Brother Daniel there.
Sorry, I went too far.
All right, I'll start it. Just bear with me as I get it muted. All right, it's muted. Here we go.
I'm still hearing.
Hold on.
Really?
What's the ruling on the field?
Ruling on the field is a touchdown.
Okay.
The pass interference on the offense, number 82.
82.
Still hearing it?
Thank you.
Well, I have a button that says audio muted.
Pass interference, number 82.
Oh.
Offense. 15 yards from the previous spot. Replay first
Somebody
down.
in the chat, do you hear audio?
We're on. Yeah. Hey, back up, guys. Back up for me.
We may need to go straight to screen share. I don't think anybody's.
Yeah, you can hear it, guys.
Yeah, it's still on. Now, how about now? Really?
All right, sounds like some old school screen share about to come up.
That's too bad.
That's okay,
Why not just play it with the audio? The audio's fantastic.
because you can't talk over the audio.
Well, okay.
All right, here we go. We're going to talk some OPI action, right? Of course, I don't have the right dog on.
Another theme that popped out of the camp. All these teams, and here we're in our red zone, but all these teams are getting their quarterback out, blocking downfield, creating chaos in space.
Yes.
And I'm really glad some of these plays happen because, I mean, this is super challenging. And, some of these so-called college, whatever that means, college schemes really are filtering down. I don't remember high school football looking like this, honestly. And it's really fun. I mean, it just made it a lot of fun to work some challenging plays. Screen share looks good.
So we're looking at OPI action. And the interesting thing is I think for me, OPI blocking downfield is a category that I really struggle figuring out exactly how to evaluate. And I think that's something that we can really discuss today. When we have OPI creating separation or any of the 6 DPI categories that we would have for OPI, that's really easy because that's just hand-to-hand combat. Is one player versus another player. Okay, did he do it? Did he not do it? That's easy. But when we start talking about blocking downfield and maybe even pick plays, now we're talking about from a holistic play development standpoint. And we're not just talking about one player versus another player. So there's other factors that we really need to evaluate and consider. So we have 3 plays that we're going to show. And then we can discuss what we see in each of the 3 plays. And then we can get into some of the audio and some of the mechanics later. But here's the first play. We'll see the number 1 receiver at the bottom. There we go. Just comes out and starts blocking. And we have a pass. We have a flag from the deep official. Let's look at the next play. Yeah, I like this one better first anyway. Now we'll see same deal. Number 1 receiver at the bottom. Blocking. And there's a pass. Number 1 receiver at the bottom. Okay. Now we can see, again, number 1 receiver at the bottom. I don't know why the number 1 receivers like to do this. He's going to be blocking. And then there's a pass. So, Corey, how about you start us off? What are the things we need to evaluate? Because I think we can clearly see that all of these players are blocking downfield. There's no question about that.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think you made a great point that this category of OPI is by far the toughest because it is. I mean, we literally have to go through a checklist before we can decide if we're going to put a flag on the ground. And so, the checklist that runs through my mind is, number one, is there contact that's restrictive that rises to the level of a foul? Okay, that's that's box number one. And then you've got to move on to, okay, do we have a legal forward catchable pass that is first touch beyond the neutral zone? So that's check box number two.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got other things to consider. We have to consider the proximity of the contact to the pass. Is there impact on the play? And is there an element of time that's present that contact would be then restrictive enough that would rise to the level of foul? So that's why I think this is one that can be missed so often because we get caught in that loop of trying to figure out, okay, was it this, was it that, was it that? And by the time we, get to the end of that, we forgot what step one was. And,
right.
It's just like, well, hell, I don't remember what did he do to begin with? And so, it's very, especially, when you're seeing pass interference, it's such a reactive foul from our perspective as an official that we see that and we want to reach and throw real quick. But when we get on a blocking downfield type of OPI, we can't do that. And I think that's something that, I know I've struggled with, that you have to take your time. You've got, okay, that's check box number one. Let's see what else we have to going on with this play. So each of these three plays that we had from camp last week really kind of, boil that down into a nutshell, that if you don't work every aspect of that play, or if you get caught something looking at some other action, you're going to miss this. And, obviously OPI is a big deal because it's coached. The reason that these wide receivers come out blocking, well, that was their assignment. They weren't meant to go out into a pattern. They were coached to go down and block downfield. And now, obviously, the timing of these passes was not intended to be so late on some of them. But that's not our job. That's not our job to decipher that any more than it is to decipher, okay, could that nose guard make the tackle? We just have to determine if something is illegal or not. And, I'm glad that to a degree, I'm glad that these all happened by the number one receiver because it's these three plays are a clinic for deep wings. If we're struggling with blocking downfield, these are three great plays to just loop over and over and look at all those aspects of OPI to see, is this an illegal act or is it not?
So how about we go through your process, Corey, on each of the three plays?
Let's do it.
Brandon, you about to say something? Oh, Daniel, you about to say something?
Yeah, before we do that, Corey, I would also add, and this is a little bit dangerous, but I think it needs to be a part of the thought process or at least here when we're evaluating film, is the degree to which blocking downfield communicates to the defense or run play. Because look, if I'm a defender, the way that I react to a play is based upon reads. I'm reading players. And so we know there always has to be contact, that you can't ever have the OPI without the contact. But I think that's a part of it too is, okay, we have a block downfield. Now we've got to evaluate the proximity aspect and the timing aspect, but also even I think a part of that is, all right, to what degree do we intentionally communicate through our blocking action to this defender that we have a run play for them to process and respond to? So I think I agree. I think my point is just to agree with you that it's really challenging, and I think that's another element that has to come under consideration.
Absolutely. I think we can put that as, a subset of impact on the play, because it does impact the play, because those safeties.
Yes, that's perfect.
Their read.
I love that.
If they see a receiver come out and blocking, they're like, man, I got to get up towards the line of scrimmage because this is a run play. And if we do a pop pass over the top of that and we miss that type of action, it's not going to be good for us come Sunday morning.
Us umpires. I don't know why I said us. I think umpire is a pretty cool position, honestly, but we need to pay attention to what we're going to talk about right now because of the whole RPO scheme, sending linemen to the second level.
Absolutely.
And how we're processing this.
Absolutely.
This can all translate into that scheme just so that we're all talking the same language when it comes to this type of player actions. So let's roll.
So before we do that, though, in preparation, I went back and I started reading the rule book because Daniel and I had an interesting debate / heated discussion after on Saturday night or whatever night, that Friday night, about one of these plays. And so I wanted to read what does the rule say? In the rule for defensive pass interference, it says it's contact beyond the neutral zone by a Team B player whose intent is to impede an eligible opponent and basically to prevent the opponent the opportunity of receiving a catchable pass. But for offensive pass interference, all it really says is that it's contact by a Team B player beyond the neutral zone that interferes with a Team B player during a legal forward pass play in which the forward pass crosses the neutral zone. And I think that's what my struggles are. And I wanted to read that to try to figure out, okay, because we start talking about one-on-one action versus action that could affect the play in general. We're not talking about necessarily affecting a player and his ability to make a play on the ball. We're just talking about how that action impacted the play. And that's, Daniel, I think that's kind of what you were talking about just now, how the defense reacts to an offensive player just blocking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Corey, how about you go through your process on each of these three plays? We'll start with this one.
Okay. All right, so obviously, okay, we have the contact. There's number one. We have contact that is restrictive, okay? It is something that is restricting that DB from doing – now, is that DB happy to be there? Okay, maybe so. All right, but still, that is contact, and the onus and the responsibility is on the offensive player to avoid contact in terms of pass interference. Now, if this turns into a run play, great block, good position, whatever. But this obviously turns into a passing play. So then we have to go to step number two. Is it a legal forward catchable pass that is first touch beyond the neutral zone? We can check that. We snap at the plus 30. The ball is first touched, I think, at the plus 22. So we're there. Now is where we get into the kind of the tricky aspect for me of, and I think this is something that really confuses a lot of officials just based on some of the conversations we had at camp this past weekend. Proximity of the contact to the pass. Okay, so we have this block occurring, between the hash and the top of the numbers. So we'll call that 13 yards from the sideline, and this pass is caught smack dab in middle of the field. So 26 and a half-ish yards. So, almost double the distance away. Is there impact on this play? And I know we used to have the philosophy of overlapping thirds. And, I think that is antiquated. Obviously, this is a good time for the disclaimer that we're no sanctioning body or rulemaking body. This is just our opinion on this, that the overlapping third, I think, is antiquated philosophy. It doesn't help us with OPI. We need to think of impact and proximity. And to me, when we go down this checklist, this block doesn't have impact to that because there's nothing that draws anybody away from it. That free safety that's on the bottom of the screen, he's bubbling, he's dropping into a cover two look. So he doesn't come up reading run. It obviously doesn't impact the other receiver, that DB trying to get to that receiver across the middle of the field. And then last but not least, is there an element of time that would, maybe create this to be OPI? And no. And by element of time, what I'm meaning is, okay, we have this block. And then, obviously with our two-step process with OPI, we're trying to find the ball. If that contact happens, and then we have an element of time where, say, the quarterback scrambles, and then the pass is thrown in that general area where this block is taking place, then we'd have a different set of scenarios that could create a foul. But to me, this is one that I would pass on for OPI just based on that process alone. And so, Daniel, as a fellow deep, how do you feel about that process and my determination with this one?
No, I think you said it way better than I could have, Corey. I'm watching the play just thinking, golly, I can't get there, man. This just doesn't rise to the level of a foul. But you gave us some actual, evidence to kind of consider and come to that determination. And I agree with you. It's just, I think ultimately it's the just combination of proximity and time. And that's the consideration we're going to have to. And then part of it is that this cornerback, I feel like, is solely responsible for this defender, over here on this side. And so, that's tough, but that's just where I land, that just from the way the ball comes out and the distance from where the intended receiver is, that our best option here is not having a foul.
Yep.
And we would have a different discussion if the ball was thrown to the dude at the pink arrow.
Absolutely.
Even with the same timing. I mean, yes. put everything the same, but the ball's thrown right there, like you just said, same
100.
timing, pass
100.
crosses neutral zone. I
100%.
think that
You,
we call
you know,
pass foul.
mechanically, I'd love, I want to point out this deep wings, positioning completely stationary throughout this. And, those of you that have been to some of our camps, you hear us preach that about how being stationary as a deep official is your friend. This is why, because you can help, all that stuff comes into focus versus you trying to, just for no reason backpedaling at the snap. You may lose that perspective. And so this, for those of you that maybe still not on board with this philosophy of trying to be stationary, this is exactly why, because it does create better visual acuity, both from a pinpoint focus type of concentration versus that wide vision.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Okay. All right, so obviously we're in the red zone here, right? 5 and in, this is something that as a deep official, even as a line of scrimmage official and umpires, you better be thinking OPI, because this is when it happens, because real estate is scarce. So, teams are going to try to free up, create space through some of their actions. So let's go through this one step by step. Okay, there's our contact. Is it restrictive? Well, yeah, it turns 21 around. It is, downfield, so it's beyond the yard. Next one, do we have a catchable legal forward pass beyond the line of scrimmage? I would say yes. I know that we had a brief discussion about this Friday night, that maybe this was
it was real brief, Corey.
Yeah, it was very brief. Maybe this was not catchable, but this is definitely, it lands in the field of play right over this guy's, this other, the slot receiver's head. So yes, I think we check that box. It's very close to being, beyond the line of scrimmage, but luckily we have that big line there to help determine that. So that would check that box. Now let's again talk about the proximity and impact on the play. Okay, just like, the pink arrow that Tuta put up last play, this is kind of that scenario right there. This is right in the vicinity of where this pass is being thrown. This is, this play was drawn up exactly like it and executed as it was drawn up. Number one receiver is supposed to block and clear room and catch the pass right behind him. Now, was the play executed from a pass being caught beyond the line of scrimmage? Probably not. I assume this was probably drawn up to be caught behind the line of scrimmage, which then obviously takes OPI off. But from a proximity and impact, we don't have to worry about the element of time, because the contact and then the pass really happens right on top of one another. So, if we are, as in this case, as a deep wing, focused in on our keys and going through this process, this one I think stands out a little bit more as an OPI compared to the first play. And I don't know if Daniel, Tutar, Brandon, if you have anything else.
Well, I just going back to the analogy earlier, put this as a lineman blocking. So this is an interior lineman who fires out second level and latches onto a linebacker like this. Because I actually think this is almost holding. It's not. I wouldn't call that holding, but geez, he grabs this guy. Okay, and now we've got a dragging route, whatever that's called, drag route underneath this block, in the middle of the field. It's the exact same process is my point. So, deep wing, I heard you say it's a deep wing, whatever. Back judge, yeah. Line of scrimmage, yeah. Umpire, yes. This is all applicable all over the field. So really good concept and process breakdown.
Brandon, I've seen you as a referee try to call some OPI action as well.
I've got that. Don't worry about that.
Okay, let's look at the.
Let's hold on before we move on. I think we need to talk about this because, sorry about that door. This is set up to be a bubble screen, right? And the receiver that the ball is going to is well behind the line of scrimmage. So, guys, are we judging where the ball lands here? Does it judge? So we know a couple of things. We know we have a philosophy where if we have an overthrown screen pass, that's one thing. We know that if we legally ground the ball out of bounds, so if we put this ball out of bounds, let's just say that. If we legally ground the ball, we know by philosophy we're not going to have a foul for OPI. So we have a receiver. I think we're snapping here at the A4. We have a receiver who's 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. We have a bad throw to him. Where are we looking? Let's say the ball lands in the backfield. How are we going to decide whether or not this is OPI? Because, clearly the defender is restricted from making a play on the ball. How do we decide, when we think about the pass being beyond the line of scrimmage? What's our consideration there? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, so you're talking about, how do we determine where it's landed because it hasn't been touched?
I'm saying, so we clearly have a screen pass here that we're trying to throw, right?
Right.
We're trying to throw. So how does that, where I think, the blocker is doing what he's supposed to do. The receiver is running the route he's supposed to. The quarterback throws a pass that goes beyond the line of scrimmage. As a deep official, that's really hard to conceptualize. So how do you put that together, Corey? I guess is what I'm asking.
Okay, I think I know where you're leading here. So in these types of situations where as a deep official, we're not 100% certain of where that ball has landed or been touched, we throw our flag and we go to our line of scrimmage crewmates and ask, was that pass beyond or behind? And hopefully they have great information for us, because if they say that landed behind the line of scrimmage or behind the neutral zone, we can easily pick up that flag. And we also have that announcement that comes in because that, for games with replay, that could be a reviewable aspect of it. And that is why we'd use that process instead of, let's not throw till we ask. It just doesn't look as good. Obviously it's the counter of intentional grounding. We're going to put the flag down first, then ask, then report. And so hopefully our line of scrimmage, and it's a tough situation for our line of scrimmage officials because snapped, at the 5 like this, their first action is to go to the goal line. So, for them to judge, beyond or behind is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, anywhere else on the field outside of the +7.
But they're still going to judge that. I mean,
Absolutely.
We know all our line of scrimmage officials are absolutely still going to own that. They take pride in their position, and just because they're properly moving to the goal line, they don't give that up. So we never want to, for example, make an excuse. Well, I was moving to the goal line. I didn't really see where the pass landed. I didn't know if it was forward or backward. No, I mean, mechanics book says referee. Come on, no, give me a break. We're not. The line of scrimmage officials are very good and very used to working our forward backward passes and judging if the pass crosses a neutral zone, and they're going to own that from the 7 in as well.
Yeah. So just as a point of clarification, Mike, our mechanics manual does say it's not pass interference. Offensive pass interference will not be called on a screen pass when the ball is overthrown behind the line of scrimmage, but subsequently lands beyond the line of scrimmage and linemen are downfield blocking, unless, and here's, I think, why this is different, unless such blocking prevents a defensive player from catching the ball. Boom. So the philosophy absolutely applies to OPI on an overthrown screen pass. Don't fool yourself into thinking that pure officiating, but unless that prevents somebody to getting to the ball. And I think that absolutely applies here when we talk about 21 kind of turning his shoulder and not having the opportunity to go and pursue the pass and fly. Now, if the ball lands out of bounds, which is what I originally thought, admittedly, I think that changes consideration. Yep. But in this case, I think the philosophy does not apply because 21 doesn't have an opportunity to go get that ball in the air.
Right. So 2 different philosophies working. Let's clear the deck, right? Sure. We've got a passer who rolls out, legally grounds the ball out of bounds. Okay, we do not call IDP on that. And what I typed in the chat is a lot of folks have, and I don't care if it's right or wrong, or whether I agree or disagree, a lot of folks have extended that philosophy to OPI because it's so similar in nature. Now, what you're talking about is a different philosophy. What you're talking about is the overthrown screen pass, and I'm not going to repeat it because you just did a great job. And so we're talking about 2 different philosophies right there.
Yeah, but the legally grounding a ball out of bounds also applies. If it goes outside, out of bounds, over it, that also applies to OPI.
Okay, because we've applied it to OPI. Yep.
Well, because the manual says so.
All right. Let's move on.
Good play. That's a great one. I mean,
very good play.
Listen, I think clearly.
Hey, Daniel. I know what I want to say. You said on the overthrown with a lineman blocking downfield. Oh, wait a second. That's a wide receiver.
Yep,
that's true. Very good point. Yeah,
no, it's not a very good point. No, that's a lineman.
He's still a lineman.
He's still a lineman.
It is. No, well, okay. So that's the great point that you're making.
Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Still a lineman. Right.
Let's go to this play, and then we'll end with a bang.
All right, so we're going to walk through the same process. There's our contact. find the ball, which is our two-step process. It's a legal forward catchable pass beyond the line of scrimmage. Now contact or proximity and impact, I think that's pretty easy. I mean, it's the ball is caught right behind this action that we're looking at. So again, this is, but I love how this deep wing does this. You can tell that he's processing all of this. He sees the action, but he's waiting. He's waiting for that second part of the process. And as soon as he sees that legal forward catchable pass beyond the neutral zone, and it's, the proximity impacts there, then we have our flag. This is a perfect example of the two-step process when it comes to OPI. Now, was this play designed to be different? Of course. I think this was meant to be, again, a quick bubble screen out, but that's not under our control. We can only officiate what is presented to us. We can't get into the depths of, that was supposed to be passed earlier. That doesn't matter here. And so, there was some great communication on this play. The linesman here, or the headline judge or the line judge, he doesn't know that we have OPI, so he correctly goes in and he judges the catch and goes up with touchdown. I know in talking to this official that works this, I know as his self-evaluation, he wanted to get to the catch sooner, and I think that's a hard part. And I think, Tuta, with your phases that you talked about last year, this would be a great one to talk about in terms of that. Okay, we've had the foul phase, that's over, but as officials, we still got work to do. And so I know in talking to the official that threw this flag, he, his own self-evaluation, I didn't get to the catch in time, which is obviously something we need to do as a deep wing or even a line of scrimmage official. I mean, these roles could be reversed easily. So to get to that part, we still have some work to do. But from an OPI standpoint, this was absolutely perfect execution of the two-step process and going over that checklist for the blocking downfield.
Yep. And and I love that you brought that up, Corey, because that was going to be my tiny piece of critique for the deep wing official. We got to make sure that we finish the playoff because we can't depend on our partner official to work the play. But let's also give kudos to the wing official. Look where he's looking. Look at his head. You can see his head is down. He's working the feet. And that's what we always talk about when we get near those boundary lines. We have to work the feet. We cannot work the ball. Just feel the catch, see the feet.
Love it.
Okay, and let's put this play to bed, and then we'll end with a bang, like Brandon said. I also wanted to just talk about tremendous communication. Golly. So this is why we love this audio that we got. Let's just hear how calm the referee and the covering official are in discussing what happened on this play. This is just great stuff.
Hold on. What's the ruling on the field?
The ruling on the field is a touchdown.
Okay.
A pass interference on the offense, number 82.
82.
82.
Thank you. Pass interference, number 82, offense. 15 yards from the previous spot. Replay first down.
We're on. Yeah. Hey, back up, guys. Back up for me. Back up for me.
That is tremendous.
That is tremendous. Is it still?
Can you stop it, Brandon?
Yeah, I tried to stop the audio.
Can you stop the video? There we go. I mean,
Great job.
when we talk about reporting fouls, how many times do we really get, number one, the referee was so calm, and that's a lesson to referees. Understand that the calling officials, his head is probably swimming, especially if he's somebody. If you're working with me, look, you don't know what you're going to get out of me when I come report a foul. So understand that the calling official is probably really excited. His heart rate is up. His or her heart rate is up. So great job by the referee, just calmly saying, hold on. What was the result of the play? And then the calling official, look how calm he was in reporting it. The result of the play was a touchdown. We had pass interference, number 82 offense. I mean, look at that communication to me. I just get all excited, man. I don't know. Maybe it's just me and I'm all geeky about it, but that was just some of the most tremendous communication of reporting a foul that we can have an example of. Okay, so we have one more play. This is going to be just a pure geeky rules play. If I can pull it up. I had a long day at work, so please excuse me. Where is my play? Here is my play. This is not my play. Brandon, I think we had an issue. Okay, I guess we will look at the play tomorrow. I mean, next week. I don't have it, Brandon. And Brandon is gone.
No, what's this play right here?
This is
Oh.
it. Play for
Look at this play.
Oh, you're on the screen?
Yeah, it's looping.
Oh, I do have that play. Is this it?
Yeah, roll the poll.
Yes, that's it. Okay. I'll turn the poll on. Okay, here's the question. We are going to assume that this was 4th down and the ball hit the ground before the running back possessed it. So what is the status of the ball and how do we handle this play? That is what we are asking. There we go. It just got much cleaner. I don't know what happened, but we got the video much cleaner. So obviously the ball didn't hit the ground. But what we're saying is the ball did hit the ground as the quarterback was doing whatever he did to give the running back the ball. What is the status of the ball and how do we handle the play? I think people are mystified by the question because the votes are very slow to come in. Brandon, Michael Billick is asking for some help. Are we going to give him some help? He's asking, did he hand it or push it?
No help. We're really digging this option that this would neither be an incomplete pass nor a fumble.
How is that possible if the ball is on the ground?
There's got to
Right.
be something. There's got to be something.
Looks like
Great
Brandon's
play.
having some audio issues.
Yeah, I think he got COVIDed out of his location.
Oh, that's nice. So let's assume I'll give some help. Let's assume he did not hand it. He more or less pop passed it.
Pushed
So he
pushed it.
yeah.
Not everyone who's voted. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
now-
right.
You tell me, yeah.
Nobody cares. Nobody sees what you voted. Nobody knows. It's all fodder for conversation.
That's right.
All right, I think we're starting to kind of firm up here, Tuta. We can start
Okay.
talking.
Yep. Poll is ended. We're all over the place. 34% of us said this would be an incomplete pass. 19% of us said this would be a fumble and would be dead if someone other than the quarterback recovered it. 3% said it would be a fumble, but it would remain live no matter who recovered it. And then 42% of us said this would be neither an incomplete pass nor a fumble, and the ball would remain live. That's a very interesting choice there. So let's start with I guess we'll go top to bottom. Incomplete pass. Is it possible for this to be an incomplete pass?
Yes, without question.
How could it be possible for it to be an incomplete pass?
So if we do anything with this ball other than hand it off to the running back in a forward motion, it doesn't matter that we're behind the line of scrimmage. Effectively, we're passing the ball forward to him. So if we push the ball, pass the ball, pop past the ball to the running back as he's running this jet sweep and the ball hits the ground, that's an incomplete pass by rule.
So Daniel, this is a I think we're tricking you as well on this play. To pass the ball, do you not have to have possession of the ball first?
You do have to have possession of the ball, sure.
How do you establish possession?
Well, you have firm control with a body part down on the ground in bounds.
Okay. So if we look at this quarterback dude, what ended up happening, I just restarted the play. So what we have to evaluate is, did this dude come to the ground before pushing this ball forward? And it appeared that he did not come to the ground before. So let's assume that he did not come to the, and I probably should have put that in the question as well, right? We're assuming that he did not come to the ground first, and I apologize. Right. So I tricked you with a poor question.
Well, no, I was just evaluating it differently, but that's okay. That's good. Let's do that. And that's why our poll results don't matter. Just opportunity.
Exactly. Let's just talk about it. So let's assume that he did not come to the ground prior to pushing the ball forward to this running back dude. Is that a pass or not? And the answer is no, because it can't be a pass, because you can't pass the ball unless you have possession of the ball. And if this dude never established possession, then it can't be a pass. That is, hold on. Where is pass? I should have had these rule references pulled up already.
Got to be in Rule 2, right?
Yeah, it has to be in Rule 2.
So passing the ball is throwing it. Does that help?
No, not really. Obviously, okay. Okay, so we know the status of the ball when it came from the snapper is a backwards pass. We know that, right?
Right.
So in order to become, where is the status of the ball? God dog it. I'm so upset because I didn't prepare for this before. I had all of these deals, in my Mr. Brandon Cruz, who has all of these, is not on to talk about them. Somebody help me out here because I'm struggling. Where is the rule reference that says
this is so much fun.
Well, I'm sweating, so it's not that much fun for me. God dog it. Because you can't pass a ball if you don't have possession of a ball, and you can't have possession of the ball, obviously, until you establish possession of the ball.
So I think the first thing you need to find, Tuta, is where it tells us that you can't pass the ball if you don't possess the ball. Yeah, right? No, so where would we go to identify that?
Yeah.
Maybe the definition of a passer?
Oh.
Maybe it's a passer.
That might be it, Corey. That might be it.
Corey, what do you got?
I don't know. I'm trying to find it.
Somebody in the chat help us out. Oh, Michael Billica says
that's not helpful at all.
Rule 7.
No, it doesn't help us either. The definition doesn't say anything about his feet being on the ground.
No, and it doesn't say anything about passing being preceded by possession.
Well, this segment is really nice.
I wish we wouldn't have fouled the play now, because now I'm looking like an idiot. Defensive handing the ball forward, backward pass, fumble, forward pass. I know the answer, but I like to defend myself, so I don't want to just tell people what it is, because that's not fair.
I mean, it defines what a runner is in terms of possessing the ball, but it has no relation to being a passer after that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it isn't defined. Did we just find something that's not defined? Did we just
No, it's defined somewhere in here. I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do.
We're going to table this.
So we got a rule reference 227.5, but that really doesn't help either.
No.
So we're going to table this and then come back ready to rock and roll on this next week?
Yes, we are, because I didn't do my homework before we got on here today. But yeah, here we go. We'll just have some homework for us, and we'll have homework for the pure officiating community. Next Tuesday, when we come back, we're going to talk about this play first, and we'll either prove that I'm an idiot or we'll prove that I'm a genius. I'm black, though. So, we'll close out for tonight. This was a great session.
No, very good. Very good.
It started great as we paid tribute to Scott Teifer, and it ended horribly as I stumbled around.
Let's not do that. Let's just end
he
great.
He would be
also.
cursing us. He would be cursing us.
Cursing Tuta specifically.
Yeah.
But let's not do that. Let's not end poorly. Let's end great. And again, just kind of reiterate not the loss that the officiating community, CFO West and Big 12 has suffered today or yesterday, but rather let's remember what an awesome contributor to the officiating. I can't even imagine if you try to extrapolate all of the umpires across the country that Scott had an impact on through working with them, through guiding them, through personal mentor relationships, through just hearing him speak at clinics and camps. I just can't imagine. And the number of men that he had an impact on as officials. He had an impact on me personally. And so let's go out that way, Tuta, and remember Scott for his awesome contribution and just what a great man he was. And let's call it a night. Everyone have a great week.
I can't say it any better than that. You guys have a great week. Thanks for joining us tonight.
All right. Good night, everyone.
There you go. Bye.